Would you consider mummification? Totally random. I switched the conversation completely. You weren't expecting that.
Would you? Okay. Would you? Okay. Out of people have their final wishes, how they want to do when they die. I want to throw my family a fucking curveball. You know what? I want to be mummified.
I want to be mummified.
I want to be mummified. The whole works. I cut out my organs, put them in jars, discard the brain. Like they suck your brain out through your nose and just throw it away.
You know quite a lot about mummification.
Well, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Origins lately, which takes place in ancient Egypt. So yeah,
okay.
That's where it all came from.
All right.
And it's like I think being wrapped, because like they unwrap mummies, and they're pretty well preserved.
I've never actually seen what it actually looks like.
Pull it up. Put it up on Google.
Unwrapped mummy.
Yeah, mummies. Like some of the bodies, like so actually, like they're dead. They're dead as fuck. It's not like you can't see the skin or anything. You can't tell if like they're white or whatever. But they look pretty preserved. I think being mummified's the way to go.
Yo, they got hair. It looks like.
Yeah, it's like there's still kind of skin there. I think just to change it up.
I mean, they look a lot more like people than
Yeah.
regular.
Yeah.
Like it just looks like an anorexic person.
Yeah.
Is that politically incorrect? Because I believe that is the medical term.
I don't know, dude. Who gives a shit?
You know how
we're talking about mummies, Christian.
Everything is like called the mummy anorexic.
She's been dead for thousands of years. Actually, you know what I heard the other day? Not to make this political, but I'm gonna make it political because it's fun. Archaeologists are gonna stop identifying the gender of the remains they find because they don't know how they would have identified when they were alive.
That is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard.
It's like I hope that's not true.
That can't be true.
I hope that's the
Do you think people in the scientific community would honestly
Google it? Yeah, I do. I really do. You know how liberal the scientific community is? Fucking liberal as fuck. They all academics.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's not even
I believe it.
These are facts.
I totally
Science
believe
is
it.
Facts.
I totally believe it. Mummies. They're gonna go. Well, I mean, I don't see a penis, so we can't ask them. And we know they didn't mummify women, but we still can't ask them. Actually, they might have mummified women. I actually have no idea.
What am I gonna type in for this?
Archaeologists.
Oh my god! I already found it.
It's like archaeologists stop gendering specimens or whatever.
Resist push to omit.
Yeah, of human remains.
Well, yeah, you definitely should. These are facts. I mean, call it whatever you want. Call it a woman. Call it a man. Just say it's a person with a penis or with a vagina.
Yeah.
Are we gonna go this far with labels?
I don't think like Lucy, like one of the first specimens they found.
Do we think that they were so advanced back then that they were thinking about I feel like a woman, or I feel like a man? I don't think they were thinking about these things.
Actually, no, that's not true. They were actually. So ancient Rome, ancient Greece, a lot of them were gender fluid. So
gender fluid, but they weren't making it a point to label themselves, were they?
I don't know.
Because I'm not saying
But the idea of
they just didn't care.
Their idea of gender, did they know what non-binary or whatever these made-up terms are today are? No, they'd probably use something else. But studies in this history show that back then, gender really wasn't a huge deal. That's actually not true either. So there's this guy named Douglas Murray, who is a scientist, professor, whatever, historian. I don't know what to exactly call him, but Douglas Murray studies ancient civilizations, and he has this theory, or he noticed this pattern, I should say, that right before the downfall of every major civilization, like a Rome or like the Great Khans or whatever, right before they collapsed, there was a massive obsession with gender.
Really?
That the people of that society just started ignoring gender norms. They started ignoring what gender is. They started ignoring what male and females were. And then society has collapsed. Like within the next few hundred years or whatever, what have you.
So
Look them up yourself. Like if you're out there, don't take my word for it. Look them up yourself because I'm sure it's more detailed than that. But that's like the popsicle stick reading of it.
the idea is that, I mean, it just sounds like being organized.
Well,
it's like if everybody on the football field just decided to play whatever position they wanted.
Yeah, so here's how I read it. This is a Will Tarashuk original now. If you as a society can't agree on gender, something as basic and fundamental of I am a boy, you are also a boy, and your mom upstairs, she's a woman. If you cannot agree on that, if someone goes, actually, no, I don't, no. Like, if you can't agree on that as a society, the most basic fundamentals of society.
I'm going to say there's some fundamental.
How are you going to agree on anything else? How are you going to agree on healthcare? How are you going to agree on taxation? How are you going to agree?
Well, the things you're talking about are, the point you're making is these things are way more complex than that.
Exactly. Like this, gender is the most fundamental, basic aspect of society. It's just organization. That's all it is. That's really all it is.
That's what I was saying. It comes down to organization and having roles.
And if you can't have a most basic, fundamental, organized society, you don't have a society. You can't fix any pertinent issues. How are you going to fix Baltimore and the crime in Chicago if you can't agree if they're all men or not?
It's very simple, but it's very complicated. I mean, yeah, I mean, there comes to an extent where it becomes problematic if you have like a person who's gone through a sex change playing in say the WNBA.
Yeah.
There's times where it can become problematic. See, the thing is, I don't care about people identifying as whatever they want.
No, neither do I.
But
no, absolutely not.
I do feel as though I respect if you become a woman or if you become a man, all right. That's what you are.
It's your right to do so as well.
And it's your right to do so, and that's what you are. But if you feel like a man, but you're a woman, I'm not going to, verbalize it to you. But you're still a woman.
Yeah.
From my point of view.
Especially,
I'm like, okay, you identify as a man, but you are a woman. And I'm not going to, say that to an individual who wants to be identified that way. But if somebody asks me, I feel like it would be very difficult for me to say he's coming over.
Yeah.
If somebody was asking about that particular person.
Do you know anyone who uses they, them pronouns?
I only see it on social media.
So one of my good friends uses they, them pronouns. They identify as non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think trans, honestly, I'm not 100% sure because I think it's changed in the past few years. But they're incredible. They're one of my favorite people on this planet.
You say they?
They, as it's one person.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So actually, I was one of those people that they, them isn't grammatically correct. It's stupid.
Well,
that's not true.
What is it that they mean by that?
So the analogy they use is, actually, they were a guest on the podcast. Kay Murphy, I think it's like episode 13 or something. We're guesting a podcast, and they kind of just break it down. So, you have gym class.
Yeah.
Where you got it's like one class on one side, usually the boys. You got the divider in the wall in the middle, and the other class is the girls on the other side.
Okay.
They feel like they're stuck in the middle, running around the circle. They don't identify as one or the other. They feel like neither, or they feel like both.
Mm-hmm.
And they recognize that they were born a woman. They were, I hate the term assigned female at birth, but I think the term I heard was like woman-bodied, something like that.
Right.
But they identify as non-binary.
See, I think the idea of being non-binary is actually kind of cool.
I fuck with it. I think it's great.
I think it's cool. I mean, to be free, you and I, we're not free in that way. You know, there's certain things, certain moments where you can't help but be programmed by what is considered masculine behavior. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, maybe you were just conditioned that way. Like, okay, the argument that girls cry more than guys, right? Let's just say that's true. For what reason? I mean, there obviously is some scientific reasons,
It's hormonal.
but in
probably.
hormonal reasons and just being wired completely differently. But we could just as easily been brought up in a way where it would have been way more acceptable and more socially acceptable to be a lot more emotional.
Yeah.
And there's moments in time where maybe you do feel that way. There's a moment where emotions are running high, but you get it together. Why? Because you're expected to as a man. But a non-binary person, no fucks. I feel how I feel. There's no gender label attached to it. And I think that's pretty liberating.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no expectations. Like, we don't talk about, as much as we should, the expectations that are put on whatever label that you are. But that's because there are labels. And that's why I also have a problem kind of to an extent with the labels. Like, because the idea of the labels is to kind of express yourself, but you're also making yourself different by pointing it out.
Right.
Yeah. So
I don't know, man. It's an interesting, confusing world, and somehow we got from mummification to non-binary people. So that's very interesting. I don't know how we pulled that off. But yeah, I'd be mummified. Sure, why not?